Hello and thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle. Our digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Transport operators in Accra say COVID-19 social distancing protocol and other factors forced a 15% increment some days ago, but the prices will remain unchanged even after President Akufo-Addo lifted restrictions in the transport sector, allowing them to operate at full capacity. Also coming up, the green light finally. The green light to publish after 2 years. This afternoon, Court of Appeal finally gives the multimedia group the approval to broadcast documentary detailing pervasive theft of cocoa beans to the disadvantage of poor farmers. Also coming up, Electoral Commission condemns violence at registration centers as more of such cases emerge. More as the EC also urges police to arrest guarantors offering unsolicited services. Later this evening, we solve the John and Jane puzzle as opposition NDC officially unveils its running mate for the December 7 elections. We're live on the ground as we bring you the live coverage and comprehensive post-launch analysis here on your election headquarters. And 2 people confirmed dead and 4 others critically injured after they were caught in a gas explosion in a local gold refinery shop in the Upper Denchura West District of the Central Region. With details of that story and more, we're live also on the ground shortly. We're live on your digital terrestrial TV for free. Also, we're on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're streaming live on YouTube, and you can join us there. We're live also on our social media platforms. Join us and let's hear your voice. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the details of those stories and more. Now, the Court of Appeal has, in a unanimous decision, ruled that the multimedia group can broadcast a documentary detailing pervasive theft of cocoa beans by clerks. The 3-member panel, presided over by Justice Dennis Ajay, held that the application by the Licensed Cocoa Buyers Association is unmeritorious. The documentary, Missing Kilos, is an investigation by JoyNews and was due for broadcast in February 2018. But running to court, the cocoa buyers described the documentary as, quote, containing unfair and unverified allegations of crime made against the companies, unquote. Court correspondent Joseph Akable has the rest of the story.
It's by far the biggest nationwide plunder of poor cocoa farmers.
They know it and it is happening.
The adjustment of weighing scales by produce clerks and licensed buying companies to steal cocoa beans in broad daylight.
Our scale is not that normal, so there is amounts or enter into the scale and also can create that problem,
making the cocoa farmer poorer.
Everybody have adjusted their scales and they are weighing it 70 kilos instead of 64.
And the produce clerk richer.
We decided that when we use 5, sometimes our wages and this thing is small, so we added 1 kilo to be 6.
JoyNews' Kwete Nate goes undercover to expose this cartel of swindlers. Missing Kilos.
The cocoa buyers had argued the documentary contains unfair and unverified allegations of crime against them. Their lawyers on Monday urged the appellate court to grant their request for an injunction. This is the 3rd effort to stop the broadcast of the documentary. The High Court and Supreme Court have on previous occasions turned down a similar request. Lawyers for the media giant, represented by Rosalind Kaleji, urged the court to dismiss the case, insisting the cocoa buyers had failed to demonstrate that they have a right to be protected. She said the application forms part of moves to frustrate the airing of the documentary. The court dismissed the injunction, describing it as unmeritorious. It also awarded a cost of 2,000 cedis against the association.
Joseph Akable filed that report. Now take a look at that story, which has been the center of controversy for 2 years. It was put together by investigative journalist here Kwetenate.
It's time to bust purchasing clerks in this dubious activity. After weighing my cocoa, I have brought the cocoa to the first shed at Amokwa. A man in his early 40s offers to buy the cocoa. He volunteers to carry the cocoa. He takes me to a mud-thatched house. He doesn't own his own shed. He weighs the cocoa at home. A bag of 70-kilogram cocoa now weighs 64 kilogram on his scale. He's demanding an extra 5 kilogram, despite stealing 6 kilograms through the adjustment of the scale. In this community, it will be impossible to find a shed that will weigh cocoa at 64 kilograms. Is there a depot at Anyinase, or do they also weigh the bag at 70 kilograms? It won't be weighed at 64 kilograms, but you need to factor other costs such as transportation. I'm at the border town of Elubu. I want to test how pervasive this canker is in this region. This 6.4-foot tall purchasing clerk works with private license buying company Fudo. His shed looks like an old church block. It hasn't been whitewashed for a long while. He's taking stock of several bags of cocoa here, but he stops to attend to us. He drops the bag of cocoa on an old rusty scale. The 70-kilo cocoa now weighs 56 kilos. 14 kilograms is stolen on every bag brought to this shed. Is that your brother? What do you want me to do? No, battery about okay, carry my. If you want me to weigh, I have no issue. I will do it for you. You can come for the money tomorrow. It's 57. What's the readings? I know that cocoa is supposed to be weighed at 64 kilograms. 57. No, I weigh cocoa here at 67 kilograms. I have to deduct 1 kilo for drying of the beans.
We'll be airing the full documentary very soon. Now, 2 people have been confirmed dead and 4 others critically injured after they were caught in a gas explosion in a local gold refinery shop at Apocalgo in the Upper Denshua West District of the Central Region. The deceased, identified as Akwesi and Yawasari, aged 34 and 29 respectively, were said to be closer to domestic gas cylinders used for the gold refinery when the explosion occurred. Joining us via Zoom is Ohime Teria, who has been following up on this story for us. Hello, Ohime. Hi there, Ohime. Hopefully you're not muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Gifty.
Right. Ohime, so 2 people have died. What more do we know about this particular incident? How did it happen? Do we have any answers to these questions?
Gifty, I have a Hajiman who tells me the incident occurred a few minutes after the deceased had went out to buy the gas in a cylinder. So immediately they returned. They started working on the gold that were in their possession. So they wanted to refine the gold. But soon after they started the process, then the explosion occurred.
Okay, give us an idea about this gold refinery. We're seeing some of the pictures, but help us with a mental picture exactly of how the space looks like and what exactly they do by gold refinery.
Yes, I have been speaking to the police and the fire service personnel who first went to the scene. Yesterday, we were in the Upper Denshua West District to monitor the ongoing voter registration exercise. Okay. But we're told as early as 9 a.m., the assemblyman for Subin Apocalgo electoral area made a distress call to police asking for a police intervention because the gas has exploded in the community and several houses have been affected. So police and the fire service personnel first went to the scene and realized the damage was more than what the assemblyman even reported. Because at least 5 homes were affected. Okay. The gold refinery company is owned by a man whom the police is yet to take statement from. We are told at the time of the incident he was not available. He was not actually at post, but Akwesi and Asari and 2 other people were supposed to work on the gold. So it's a local gold refinery. I'm told they've been buying from the local miners who always supply them with the gold. And when they buy them, there's a process that they go through to refine the gold. So they need gas, or let me say excessive heat to refine this gold, turn them into fine products before they are sent outside. As to how the incident happened, police are even struggling because they are yet to get eyewitness accounts. All that we heard was that, yes, these people have went out to buy the gas in cylinders, some in 6 kg packs. So immediately they returned. That is when the explosion occurred. So it's been difficult, even police who have been investigating the matter, getting information from people. Just a while ago, DSP Duajiman, the district commander, told me that, yes, they are making a breakthrough. They've had the opportunity to meet somebody they describe as an eyewitness. And so police will be able to pick the right information, and then we can put that one into the public domain. But what we do know is that, yes, it's a gold refinery. The name is not even known as of now, run by a man who was not even at the scene. But the man has 2 people, Akwesi and the other colleague deceased, Mr. Asari, who were working at the time of the incident. And I must say, it's a very horrible scene, seeing dismembered human parts scattered, some as far as between 50 and 70 meters away from the scene.
Ohime, that's a very disturbing one to report on. As you said, the police, are continuing with the investigations, correct?
Sure, Gifty.
Right. We'll come to you as and when there's any further information. Ohime Teria there, who's reporting for us about the death of 2 persons who were told were refining gold in a facility. You've seen those pictures there. Those are pictures from this facility that at which the explosion occurred. Now, emerging videos available to Love News shows the assistant headmaster of a Jiso Secondary Technical School, who detained 2 students overnight in his office, may have been abusing students before the latest incident. Kofi Apia admits to locking the students up for allegedly stealing an electric stabilizer. One of the detainees attempted suicide as a result. Erastus Asare Donko has been speaking with eyewitnesses and examining fresh evidence of maltreatment in which the students are seen crawling on their knees by the roadside. Here is Erastus's report.
In the video, some young men who identify themselves as students of the school are seen on their knees by the roadside. Ajuson Koswahine Nana Kofi Poku corroborates contents of the video.
You was the time I did, and at the right time I wasn't
He tells me he nearly drove into the students at night on one occasion.
But when I reached the school, I saw some 3 things going on the road. So I thought it was a sheep. I said, no, this thing is not a sheep. So I slowed down. I put highlights and I saw it was 3 boys. I asked them, why? He said, we are eating. We're doing some soakings in front of the dormitory. And then our assistant headmaster came to meet us. And he said we should crawl in to follow him. From inside the school to the gate, to the main road, towards Onyi Road. So they're crawling almost about, let's say about 500 yards.
Nana Poku says he confronted Mr. Apia, who admitted subjecting the students to such ordeal.
I saw them eating. And I'm saying, no, it's not right for you to eat at this time. We should be in the room. I told them, in fact, I told them they should crawl and follow me. But they should come on, crawl and follow me.
And follow?
Yes, I said that.
He admits to me that, yes, he said they should do that. But he thought they go back to school.
The chief also wants education authorities to investigate reports of some students scooping feces with their bare hands on the orders of the assistant headmaster because they defecated in the bush.
This is not the first time. They have the problem in the school toilet when the boys went to the bush. So this man ordered them go back to the bush, follow them, use their hands to grab the private on their hands, walk into the school, throw into the school toilet. We don't want this man in our even society here. We don't want him.
Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asare Donko, Kumasi.
Well, police are still investigating that particular matter involving the alleged attempted suicide, and Erastus is still on it. We'll get more as and when it happens. Right now, I'll take you away from the Ashanti region. Now, salvaging of the endangered rosewood species has resumed in the Busa North District of the Upper East region despite a government ban. Documents intercepted by JoyNews show that the Forestry Commission has given the green light for the evacuation of the species despite protests by residents. Joseph Opoku Gakpo of our Environment, Agriculture and Technology Desk has more.
Harvesting of rosewood is illegal in any part of this country. Similarly, the transportation and export of rosewood is suspended.
That was the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources announcing a ban on the felling, salvage and transportation of rosewood last year. The ban is still in force, but residents in the Busa district say the movement of the rosewood species from the forest has continued.
Since the day they put a ban, up to now, they are still in Busa district. They have not moved out of the district.
Earlier this month, some residents impounded 2 truckloads of rosewood species but released them following the intervention of the police and Forestry Commission officials on the basis that they had approval to convey the logs.
We went to the police commander to lodge a complaint, and it was there that he came out with a document that they've given them the go-ahead.
A letter by Executive Director of the Forest Services Division, Opong Sasu, to his Upper East Regional Manager, intercepted by JoyNews, says approval had been given to allow for the evacuation of abandoned, impounded, and confiscated rosewood logs in the nearby Navrongo forest. The letter said the chief executive of the commission had given approval to Messrs Original Asasia Band Complex Limited to evacuate 107 metric cubes of rosewood from the forest. The letter said the company had paid 20,000 Ghana cedis to evacuate 4 buckets of the rosewood. The residents say the companies are cutting down new logs. Jerry Akanamwe is a member of a forest protection team.
We still suspect that they are, even the ones that they were picking at Kadema and Wiaga Road, there was new ones. They cut them first.
Officials of the Forestry Commission are insisting no fresh cuttings are happening. They, however, are unable to explain why the ban on transportation is being flouted.
Joseph Apocalgo filed that report. He's joining me via Zoom. Hello, Joseph. Hi, Joseph. I think you're muted. Okay. I do hear you now. I do hear you now. Okay. So have we had any response? I mean, this denial that we're getting from the Forestry Commission, has it been backed up by any other government official, higher than this authority?
Thus far, officials at the level of the police service, at the level of the Forestry Commission in the Bilsa area, are insisting that the folks who came around to actually harvest the logs about 2 weeks ago and even earlier, came with documentation from the headquarters of the Forestry Commission, signed by the Director of Forestry Services, as we quoted rightly in the report earlier. And they didn't have a choice than to allow them in order to do the necessary picking of the said logs. And it's worrying, because we all know that what government describes as a ban on not just felling, but even transportation of rosewood species is actually still in force. I did that check with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and the indication that I got was that the said ban that the minister announced at a media briefing about 8 months ago is still in force. So it still beats everyone's imagination. How come, despite this really being enforced, the processes are still ongoing and the cutting is ongoing? But the main fear is that once the folks get into the forest to go pick what the government, and for that matter, the Forestry Commission, continues to insist is abandoned log, you can't control what they do in the forest. And according to the community folks in Bilsa, as we heard in the tape that, and in the report we had a while ago, they are claiming that some of the additional cutting is happening, which is why they are very much worried. And they would want government, and for that matter, the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, to boldly pull brakes generally on any possible green light for anyone to evacuate, whether they are abandoned logs or logs that need to be salvaged or anything like that. So looks like we are back to where we started from, even before the minister announced that particular ban sometime last year.
Very, very sad, I should say. But then the member of parliament for this area has been very instrumental, has been talking a lot about this. Is he giving you any indication that he might take this any further? And I mean, what are the options available at all?
So Dr. Clement Park, who is the MP for the Bilsa North electoral area, has been indicating that some of those contents have actually really come to his attention, and some of those documentation have actually got into his notice. You recall that he's repeatedly raised the issue on the floor of Parliament. Even a parliamentary committee was asked to go investigate the issue. Eventually, the Environmental Intelligence Agency from the US came in to do their own investigation, in which they uncovered the illegal trade still happening, and that resulted eventually, and then also our documentary, Killing Our Roses, all of that culminated into the latest announcements of the ban. Dr. Clement Park has hinted that he has more details and additional documentation, which he says proves that people from government, he continues to insist, have benefited from this illegal trade. And sometime soon, he'll be announcing all of those publicly in a media briefing or other public engagement, so that then he hopes the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and particularly he's hoping the international community rallies behind him, so they pull brake on this particular illegal trade. Recently, Ghana got more like a praise of a sort from one of the groups that did one of these investigations, the Environmental Intelligence Agency, when they released their latest report just about 2 weeks ago. They indicated that the export of rosewood from Ghana to China, illegal rosewood, had decreased by up to 90%, comparing figures from sometime last year. But the indication is that all of it has more to do with COVID-19 related restrictions than pulling brakes on the illegal trade. And in fact, in that report that EIA issued, they warned that as the easing of lockdowns continue, if care is not taken, the assembling of these logs legally has been ongoing in country, and that as soon as the borders reopen and all, then we'll see a mass export of some of those illegal species, which they're asking that government needs to pay attention to. So we're keeping the conversation going and hoping that the right thing will be done going forward. Gifty.
Whilst we wait for Dr. Clement Park to take action on this, let's look at what happened in Parliament today. We're supposed to have the debate on the budget review. How did that go?
It kicked off in earnest. Dr. Mark Asibe-Eboa, he is the MP for New Job and North, and also the chairman of the Finance Committee, moved the motion in order to allow for the continuation of the debate on the media budget review. He started by cataloging what he says has been an excellent performance of the NPP administration over the last 3 years, indicating that when it comes to dealing with the budget deficit, they are performing far better than the NDC performed when they were in power. He referenced the inflation rate in the country. The NPP, he says, is doing a lot more better than the NPP, and also referenced interest rates and a number of other things. And then he went on to make the point that things began to go bad following what we've seen has been the COVID-19 pandemic. But he went on to make an argument that it's because of the solid foundation that the NPP administration had laid over the last 3 years. That's how come Ghana is showing some form of resilience in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on the economy. They've been citing figures when it comes to the projected growth of the economy in terms of the gross domestic product for this year. You know, Ghana is expected to record about 0.9% GDP growth, which is very much low compared to what was projected pre-COVID-19. But they make the argument that a lot of the economies worldwide, and even when you look at the average expected growth of the economy, is supposed to hit the negative figure. And so if Ghana is doing a modest 0.9% growth rate, Dr. Mark Asibe-Eboa says that's because of the NPP's solid management of the economy over the last 3 years. Otherwise, things would have been worse. But those on the minority side will have none of that. Isaac Adongo was referencing what he thinks are cooked figures that the finance minister put out when he delivered the mid-year budget review statement, referencing a number of items, including the amount that's been paid to depositors with the collapsed banking schemes and all, saying that the figures that the finance minister put out vary from what the Bank of Ghana had put out earlier. So the politically charged and politically focused analysis, where those on the right are praising the budget, those on the left are criticizing it, is virtually what has been panning out. The Minister for Information, Kojo Nkrumah, the Deputy Minister for Finance, Abena Osea-Sare, and a number of others have been contributing to the debate. And they put brakes on that some hours ago. They are expected to continue tomorrow. But then let me round up on what the Minister for Interior has been telling Parliament this morning, Ambrose Derry. He came around to respond to a question about what we've seen in the Apocalgo area, the training school there. They recorded COVID-19 cases, well, actually not 95, but 85 of them. And there was a question to the minister about what is being done to ensure that in the training schools, even as they continue to train young people, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, what is being done to avoid the spread of the disease. And he said they are observing the necessary protocols. Entry into the training schools are being restricted. The Veronica buckets and all have been provided. And so the efforts are ongoing to keep people safe, even as the training of the police recruits continue.
You must be catching your breath. But just before you do that, has anything else happened in Parliament? Otherwise, that'll be it for me.
The House has been working on a number of other bills today as well, apart from the address by the Minister for Interior and also the budget debate. The Minister for Roads was also in Parliament to respond to questions on what is being done to deal with a lot of the roads that are actually outstanding. And tomorrow, all of that will continue. The House is going on a break on the 10th of August, which is sometime next week. So like they want to clear their table of all the urgent agenda before that break comes off on the 10th of August.
We'll see what becomes of the year of roads, seeing our, GDP figures, etc. But Joseph, thank you very much for that update from Parliament. Joseph Apocalgo is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. He talked to us about the rosewood problem that we're facing in this country and what's happening. We're told that there are still people harvesting rosewood even though government has banned it. And they say that they come with documents indicating that they have authorization to do so. He also told us about the debates on the budget review that went on in Parliament, the usual cycle. Minority against it, majority for it is what happened in Parliament today. And Ambus Dairy is talking about what is being done up north, where some students of Teacher Training College have contracted coronavirus as well. This is still The Pulse with me, Gifty and Dopia. Why don't we take a very short break here? We'll be right back with more, including the fact that transport operators here in Accra are saying COVID-19 social distancing protocols and other factors did force them to increase, by 15% their fares. But they did that days ago. But even though the president has changed that and allowed them to now operate at full capacity, the prices will remain unchanged. Welcome to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Transport operators in the country say they will not reduce fares after President Akufo-Addo lifted restrictions in the transport sector. They say COVID-19 social distancing protocols and other factors did force a 15% increment some days ago, but the prices will remain the same even after the president directed them to now operate at full capacity. That is according to Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Ibrahim Abbas Moro. Maxwell Agbagba was at the Circle Lorry Station and reports that whereas the drivers are excited and have already started operating at full capacity, passengers are not happy about the directive.
We are here at the Circle Terminal to gauge the mood and find out what it is like, here. As you can see, the place is already buzzing with activity this morning. But before we get to the terminal, though, let's speak to some persons who are buying, some water here this morning. Let me speak to Sir. You're welcome to JoyNews.
Thank you. Yeah. For me, since we'll be wearing the nose masks, I don't think I have a problem. Okay. Because if you are able to follow the precautionary measures, I think it will help all of us to be safe.
Truck drivers can't go back to picking to full capacity.
Oh, we are very happy.
Okay. You are very happy?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you reduce your transport fares because many of you increased it because of that?
But the fuel is not reduced. So it should reduce the fuel so that it can also reduce the fare.
You can see what's happening in this vehicle right now. It is at full capacity. Previously, you would only find 2 people in this truck, but now it's back to normal with 3 people, on the seats. All of them wearing masks. Just in one person at the front seat not wearing the mask. So the trucks here at Circle have started operating at full capacity.
It's a welcome address.
Okay.
The president have done well because no matter what, we can't go backwards. We have to bounce back. The nation have to bounce back. Yeah, so it's a good initiative. Okay. We welcome it. When the fare was increased because of the reduction of the passengers, it also created the fare to rise.
They were supposed to reduce the lot of fare because it will bring confusion. They must government to do something to favor the drivers and made too.
Well, we are now in the central business district. There's a lot of activity going on here, but we are right in front of the offices of the GPRTU, the Greater Accra GPRTU. And we have with us the public relations officer. But what we are certain about is the 15% increment. You say that you're not going to reduce the fare.
Yes, no, that one there's no way. It is good we speak the truth, we tell you the truth to cry, than to tell you lies for you to laugh. There's no way we are going to decrease anything from it, because we are even looking for more than what we are implementing now.
You are not loading, you are not operating at full capacity. Now the president has lifted that restriction and you're operating at full capacity. What do you make of arguments that it means you should drop that 15% increments, you know, the 15% increase in lorry fares? What do you make of arguments like that?
No, I said earlier on that by then, you know, we're not in normal times when the economy, you know, things have changed. We are even expecting to come up with upward adjustment in lorry fares, which is long overdue.
Long overdue, he says. Meanwhile, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, is calling on commercial transport operators to reduce their fares immediately as they return to taking passengers at full seating capacity. I have the Executive Director for COPEC, Duncan Amwa, who's joining me on Zoom. Ms. Amwa, it's been a while. Hi, good afternoon.
Gifty, let me say good afternoon to you, good afternoon to your viewer, and forgive my beard. I've not been able to get to the barbering shop in a long time, so
don't worry. You can use the way it looks like. You can use a scissors to do that. But let's look at the let's look at what the drivers are doing to us. Essentially, they're eating their cake and having it, or having their cake and eating it at the same time. You are calling for them to reduce their fares. They have said already that it will not change. What else can COPEC do to get them to do what everybody believes should be done?
Gifty, the point and the good news is that eventually they will.
Okay. How?
And we do not think that we made those calls in vacuum. And right-thinking members of society are quite, in tune with this. Most Ghanaians expect the right things to be done. Once the government has come up to lift the restrictions or the social distancing restriction, what it means is that revenues that they were forfeiting before the president's directives yesterday, now they are going to have all those revenues come to them. So like you said, they want to eat their cake and still have it. Gifty, I have heard a section of drivers suggest that government should reduce fuel taxes or fuel prices before they can reduce transport fares. Let me reiterate that pre-COVID fuel prices and post-COVID fuel prices, if you add the two, Ghanaians are, as of today, enjoying a minimum 50 pesos variance or difference with what we used to pay before COVID and what we are paying today. So the fuel price discussion or discourse would not apply at this time, because if it were to be anything, the drivers are saving on fuel at this time than even before COVID came and social distancing rules were applied. Now, what they look out for is the fact that because fuel dropped to about 4 cedis or 3 cedi 80 and it's now gone to about 4 cedi 80, it means they are paying more. They are not paying more. In actual fact, a lot of us in Ghana currently are saving on fuel if you look at the levels we were paying for and the levels we are paying now. They also cite spare parts. The cedi dollar, relationship, it fluctuates, it goes up, comes down. So it will be difficult for one to say that spare parts has also gone up when there's not been any new introduction of taxes on importations. And so that argument would fall any day. Fuel prices, spare parts will fall. The key thing that made them increase transport fares for all of us was social distancing and the fact that for taxis that were picked 4 people, they were now picking 3 people. That is some 25% revenue forfeited to them. And so we agreed with them when they needed to increase the fares. But at this point, based on the president's directive, it is only fair and proper that if they are going to go back and pick the 4 passengers to get, the full revenue stream, you do not overburden the commuter any further by charging extra because of COVID. COVID has given them positives like lower fuel prices as we speak. Spare parts have not indeed gone up as they would want Ghanaians to believe. And for nothing at all, they will make savings on fuel prices, which they used to pay 5.3, 5.6 for, but now selling or trading at 4.8 per litre. And so, if for nothing at all, they should have even reduced their previous transport fare prices and not the additions that they are refusing to withdraw. I can put on record that any way and mean that COPEC will go to achieve these reductions would ensure that the right things are done for and by Ghanaians, by these our cherished public transport operators, because it is simply the right thing to do. The last other critical factor, if they do not reduce the fares at this point, you hear a lot of them allude to fuel prices. If the government reduce fuel prices, they'll reduce transport fares. As it stands today, 4.8 is what we are paying at the pumps. Let fuel prices go up to about 5.5. The same drivers will come back to us to say, we need to increase transport fares because fuel prices have gone up. Now, at what levels are you increasing from? We should be increasing from the decreasing rate or the 15% less that we are currently asking them to take off. And so, Gifty, we are not going to sit and allow this, like you indicated, they should eat their cake and have it. So when the time comes for them to increase transport fares, they do. So I just want to, and the window comes for reductions, they should also give that to Ghanaians.
I just want to find out if you are considering any options, and what are they?
Gifty, I can assure you that our lawyers are on standby. This will be a very interesting case for the Ghanaian courts, because clearly we cannot allow the public to continuously be cheated with the excuse that, oh, if you get them here, then they use spare parts. If you get them on spare parts, then they use fuel prices. If you get them on fuel prices, then the argument is that, oh, we've made losses in the past. Gifty, we put on record that no business can ask for retrospective profits. So if you forfeited your monies yesterday, you cannot come today and insist that monies that you should have made yesterday, which you didn't make, we should allow you to charge us today.
Okay.
That clearly doesn't stand the test of any business case. So we'll take them to court by close of business today, tomorrow. We do not get any indication that they intend to be fair and equitable to Ghanaians. I can assure you that the transport fares will be reduced, and it must be reduced immediately.
I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure that a lot more people are also doing the same. Mr. Duncan Amwa, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Duncan Amwa is Executive Secretary of the Executive Director of the COPEC, as a Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. He says they're going to sue the drivers. We'll see how that goes. A biologist with the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research into Tropical Medicine is urging commercial transport operators to design COVID-19 preventive protocols beyond government's directive. This comes after President Akufo-Addo announced that commercial vehicles can now resume operations at full capacity, as you've already heard.
In consultation with the Ministries of Transport and Aviation and the leadership of transport operators, government has taken the decision to lift the restrictions in the transport sector and allow for full capacity in our domestic airplanes, taxis, trotros, and buses. The wearing of masks in vehicles and aircrafts and the maintenance of enhanced hygiene protocols remain mandatory.
As President Akufo-Addo yesterday was speaking to Loud News, virologist Dr. Michael Owusu noted that Ghana's cases could increase if transport operators do not ensure the protocols are actually observed.
One of the signs behind phase easing of restrictions is what we call building immunity for the population as you go on. Africa, as I said, we are lucky, one of the luckiest in the continent, because the virus has not caused so much devastation like we have seen in many countries. Not just because of the mitigation measures, but we seem to have some natural, unexplained systems, physiological mechanisms that seem to make us more stronger. Some will say we are more robust against the virus. There are indications that some previous coronaviruses we have may have given us some standard of strength. So this is why our death, I think, is very low, in addition to the many other mitigation measures. So, yes, transport or buses coming together, they have challenges. But if everybody who goes to the transport is able to put on his mask and observe the protocols, you are likely to limit the spread and to be able to manage possible transmission that may occur. My worry is about the long buses, which may not have adequate ventilation. So if you have many people in a bus and they have to travel for about 6 hours and they don't have adequate air circulation and they want to close their windows and put on air conditioning, then that may contribute to some of the infection. But this depends, again, on the transport organizations, the union. So once the president has made this declaration, I will expect that the transport unions will also have their own protocols, advise their drivers to ensure that they allow ventilation, and the people who board their buses also put on their masks. And then we have to test and experiment this, at least for the second phase. And when things go on well, then of course we can go back to our normal duty. Everybody is eager to go back to our normal duties. We cannot stay indoors and say that everything is fine. But once we want to go to the other phases, then of course it's important that we are able to do what is right, so we can be able to move ahead with where we are.
At least on your own, you can take care of yourself and try to stay distances away. Meanwhile, health analyst and a fellow of the Center for Democratic Development, Kwame Sapong-Asiedu, says despite efforts by the government, the positivity rates show that there is more work to be done. He spoke yesterday on Beyond the Lockdown show with Emefa Apao.
And so we can't expect that positivity rate that you talk about, that comparison that you talk about.
You see, Emefa, I always talk using Ghana Health Service data. I can give you a number of examples. If you go onto the Ghana Health Service website, on the 30th of June, our positivity rate was 6.03%. Today, as I speak to you, it's almost 9%. So the data I talk about is not alien data. There's no way anyone can get alien data. If you go on the Ghana Health Service website and you read it, you would realize the statement I made about the 39 days. That, for example, if you look at the data that was released today, and you go and check, it clearly says the data is 582 cases released on the 23rd of July, but it comes from the 29th of June to 22nd of July. That is 3.5 weeks. If you go to yesterday's, the same data on the Ghana Health Service website tells you it comes to 35 days. The previous day, it comes to 39 days. So what I'm trying to say, and that is why I would have liked Dr. Wadi to have waited for me to finish, because I am quoting his data, not mine. And that is why I'm going back to the Ghana Health Service website. And more importantly, this is the same data that our world in data and the WHO pick up. And for me, what I tend to do is, if I do run anything, I would go back and look at these data and compare it to comparative websites. What I'm trying to say is that as a service, they are making a lot of input. But if you look at the outcome parameters, based on their own information they are putting out, which I've read some out now, and what I see and what is appearing on our world in data, it's appearing on Conima, it's appearing on Johns Hopkins, it's appearing on the University of Oxford, and all those come out with the same numbers I'm quoting. They don't quote any different numbers. It seems to me that they are making a lot of effort, but the effort they are making and the information they are putting out is not transcending into community collaboration. That is where I have a concern. It is not that they are not doing anything, but if you look at what they're doing and you look at the outcome numbers on these websites, you clearly realize that there's a bit more that we need to do. And if you listen to the president clearly, he also alludes to that fact in his statement he just released by saying that we've gotten to a point where the fight is more about the collaboration of the populace than it is about what the inputs are by officialdom. And so if we don't make these disconnects and situate the data, and we only try and gloss over them and not look at them with a painstaking eye, then we'll get to a point whereby we would fail to see when subtle changes are taking place, like I've just pointed out. And that is why I went off World Data International, and I'm currently reading from the Ghana Health Service website. So the data I am using and the denominator that Dr. Abuaje is asking for, I can provide. For example, when we had 694 new cases, the total test was 4,322. When we had 691, the total test was 3,793. For that, the positivity was 18.48%. For the previous one, it was 16.06. This is where the 7-day averages and the 14 and 28-day averages come from. And to land, I would want to say the WHO is clear. It says if your cumulative positivity is between 3 and 12%, it's okay. If your 4-week running average goes above the 12%, then you are not testing enough. That's not me saying it. These are WHO, press conferences that they release, and I can share the documents with anyone. So I am not saying that they are not doing anything. I am looking at the outputs and outcomes, and I'm comparing it with the amount of work they are putting in and saying we are not getting commensurate results.
Okay. So speaking of community collaboration and the collaborations that you've also alluded to, Dr. Abuaje has mentioned that they've tried reaching out to you, for instance, for some of the documents that you put out there, and it has not been forthcoming from you. Are you willing to collaborate?
Yes. Let me correct that. That is not correct. I wouldn't want to divulge, but there were some people within his team who went unwell thanks to all these things. So we were working in a group, and when a number of people go unwell and you are looking for certain information, it's not forthcoming. That is the truth of the matter. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have spoken to it. But if he goes back and checks with his team, he would realize that some were taking unwell, and the questions we are posed to them, we haven't gotten answers for. And these are the things. So sometimes I don't divulge this information, not because I don't have answers, but because I think that you go into the realm of patient confidentiality, where at certain points you have to put out information that's inappropriate.
Okay. MFR Pao there yesterday would be on the lockdown. So let's take a look at how we're doing in terms of our case count, shall we? Right, so there you have it. New cases, 532. Mind you, we have changed our case definition, and so we're not testing as much as we were. So 532 irrespective. Active cases, 3,307. 32,969. That's the number of cases we've recorded so far in all. And we're looking at some 29,494 people who have recovered. And unfortunately, 168 people have died. On the back of that, Ghana's first infectious disease center is ready for use after the Ghana COVID-19 private sector fund handed over the 100-bed facility to the state at a formal ceremony last Friday. Built over a 12-week period, the treatment center will be used for critically ill COVID-19 patients. Trustees of the fund intend to raise more money to build similar infectious disease centers in Kumasi, Tamale, and Takrady. My colleague Mamavi Owusu-Abuaje, who is also a brand ambassador, has been talking to members of the private-driven initiative.
Ghana now has its first infectious disease center in Accra, 12 weeks after the project was started in April. A 100-bed hospital facility with a 20-bed intensive care unit and a first-class laboratory, backup generator, and so many other modern facilities, thanks to the efforts of the Ghana COVID Private Sector Fund, who mobilized resources for the completion of the projects. The hospital will initially be used for the isolation and treatment of critically ill COVID-19 patients. When the pandemic ends, it will then be used to treat other infectious diseases. So, after a successful completion of the first of 4 hospitals in the country, let me introduce you to the trustees of the project who started it all with a seed money of 100,000 Ghana cedis each and a target to raise 1 million Ghana cedis each. Here are 2 of them.
Somebody might get sick, he might not get the resources, all right? Yeah. Let's say all the hospitals are full and you see people dying probably on the street or even lying outside the hospital or on the floors of the hospital that we have. And if I go there, like I see it, will I be happy? That would not be what I wanted. That's why the moment they told me they want you to do something like that, I say, okay, I'm on board, count me in. So my small way or my widow's mind to contribute to Mother Ghana is what motivated me to come on board the project.
One of the other things that's fascinating about the project is the time within which it's been completed, which is like a record time. How does it make you feel seeing the structure there? Because there was nothing on the ground, and then in 3 months we have a complete modding
facility.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how does that make you feel?
You see, it makes me feel very proud. And then it shows that, yes, we can. As the former American president said, we can. It's all about attitude. It's about mentality. You know, I have a philosophy that what one man has done, another man can do, right? So this record time of completion of this project shows that if the private sector, we focus, you know, our attention on developing this country, it can be done.
Finally, I want to talk about how ready you are and how committed you are to the projects in Kumasi, Takoradi, and then Tamale.
Yes, the idea is that we call this diversification. You cannot put everything in Accra. So if somebody is in Takoradi, you have to either be flown here by helicopter or by road, you know. So once you are able to do this, in conjunction with the military and also able-bodied, good-willing Ghanaians, the idea is to spread it. That doesn't become a centralized facility, right? So from here, Accra, we have decided to go to Kumasi. From Kumasi, the first willing, you go to Takoradi and eventually go to Tamale.
You know, the most important thing in the beginning was for us to have the will to do something. And once we had that, it was 50% of the decision was made, and you know, the journey was done, in my view. But to start with, the scariest thing was getting out of our homes. You didn't know what was going to happen. That was the scariest thing, and that was what our families were afraid of. You know, so they were okay with us helping, but couldn't we help from home? Couldn't we get other people to do it? But going into it yourself was the scariest thing. Yeah. So that was the most difficult part. Once we got over that, it was easy, you know, to continue with the rest.
There must be some kind of excitement in you, knowing that there was nothing here where we stand today. This had nothing, but because you dreamt, and you dreamt with a group of people, this is possible today. How does that make you feel?
It's interesting. It's, I think we are all filled with pride and, you know, joy, just to be able to know that we've been able to achieve it. You know, as a nation, that we've all put our heads together and thought that, okay, let's do this. And then we all forced towards it until we get there. And we've gotten there very beautifully.
And if you're wondering who really is the boss when 11 CEOs come together to execute a project like this, well, here's Kweku Bediako again.
Lots of the people knew each other. Okay, what we hadn't done was maybe to work together. So that was new. But I think, you know, something very Ghanaian happened from the first day, and it stuck all through, which is using age as the determining factor of who is senior in this. So the oldest person clearly, you know, was a senior, followed by the next, followed by the next, followed by the next. You know, luckily, they seem to be the wisest people as well. So luckily the age was coming with wisdom and experience and all of that. Yeah, so it was easy to hold on to that, and it worked beautifully. I mean, it is what we had before, where I would call some of the people uncle or senior, and at the end of it, we are still saying exactly the same thing. So how much money you were putting into it didn't really matter. Who you were in your office didn't really matter in this. It was just the idea that we're doing this, and age was the thing that mattered when it came to these things. Yeah. It was beautiful.
And of course, I have company, but I just want to say kudos to all the people that contributed to this work. It's just simply amazing. I do have Lexis Bill right here in the studio. He's here to tell us what's going to happen today. Oh, no, not today. This week.
This week on Drive. Well, before we actually talk about this week, last week we did something unprecedented. And I don't know whether you heard about it. So what we did was that we wanted our listeners on Drive Time to join in the show via Zoom.
I know.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Let me tell you something funny that happened.
Dude.
So they used a Joy FM account to set up the Zoom conversation. And when it was time for me to join in, I couldn't get in because the room was full.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I tried to get on the same thing that I'm supposed to.
We have to hold your producer accountable for this one. I mean, how did that happen?
I couldn't get into the room. Like,
Lexis of all people could not get into the room.
It was so full, hundreds of people.
But that's amazing. It tells you that lots of people want to be a part of the show all the time. Well, they want to know what you have for them this week.
Well, this week is exciting. Of course, the Monday, we're already on air live. You continue to Joy FM after she's done, maybe, and join in our Motivational Monday edition. We have a great conversation coming up in just about 30 minutes, okay? Plus, let me ask you another question. Who is more influential, or who was more influential? Bob Marley or Michael Jackson?
Oh, wow. I think they have different constituents.
Yeah, well, but globally they had an impact, right?
Yes.
Globally they had an impact.
But the impacts are different, so... I mean, this is, you guys are pairing, you guys are pairing wrongly. I mean...
No, they're all musicians. I mean, there's a king of pop and the king of reggae. I know you can't choose. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a very big conversation.
I'll go more towards Bob Marley.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. A lot of people feel that the king of pop, Michael Jackson, was more influential.
Yeah, that's okay, but that's me. For me, it will be Bob Marley.
So tomorrow we have that showdown. It's a big debate that's going to go on tomorrow, and we're going to hear music from all these legends. On Wednesday, our Drive Doctor also has something that will interest the women. Menopausal bleeding and something of the sort around. Yeah. It's some good education. Dr. Safo of Medicast Hospital is going to join in. On Thursday, we've got a musical showdown plus personality profile that brings all the, of course, big figures in to talk about their life and all of that. Yeah. And Friday, we raffle up nicely with a pop quiz.
No Zoom?
Oh, you're looking forward to it already? Yeah. It's exciting. I mean, we might just do it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Last Friday was a test. We just wanted to try it out and see how it went, and people loved it. We had people joining the show via Zoom from the US, from China, from the UK, from South Africa. From
Friday,
all
I'll be
over
joining
the world.
from the newsroom myself.
We actually had the business news team join in as well. Okay. So you had Sandra and her team there on Zoom while doing the same building. Cool. Listen, it's amazing. You've got to tune into Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM from 2 o'clock. Monday to Friday, my team and I will bring you the best late afternoon radio show in Ghana.
Okay, Lexis, thank you. I'll bring you the invoice later.
All right.
Lexis Bill, he's still on air, by the way. He just passed through. We'll be doing this every Monday to give you an idea what we're doing on radio, so you can, have fun with it if you're on the move. Lexis, thank you. I look forward to seeing you next week.
I'll be here.
We'll be a part of the itinerary this week, and of course, we'll see if we can do the Zoom. Then you can join. Let's do sports. Gary L. Smith is standing by with it.
Thank you for staying with us on The Pulse. I'm Gary L. Smith with the sport. Yesterday, the president gave us his latest COVID-19 measures and measures that have been outlined to combat the virus and how we can deal with it. And as you may have heard, he did say that the under-17 women's national team and under-20 women's national team will be given a special dispensation to begin camping, which brings about the discussion as to how the Ghana Football Association should begin thinking about measures to ensure that all the protocols are properly outlined and properly dealt with. Dr. Prince Pombo works with the Confederation of African Football, and he has outlined measures to the Joy Sports team, and he says that these are the ways that the Ghana Football Association have to adhere to COVID-19 protocols.
We know in times past, we have coaches inviting so many players, sometimes 45, 50 players to camp and then go through training before selecting. Now, coaches will be advised to bring down the number as low as possible so you don't over-invite people. So, yes, they will be looking at quite a tight number to invite to camp. Before every player comes to camp, they would have to go through a mandatory PCMA, which is a pre-competition medical assessment plus COVID-19 testing, and you would have to test negative before you can enter camp. This is a national assignment, and I know the Ministry of Youth and Sports, the Ghana Football Association, would put in a word to the testing centers, and this will be treated as top priority. So basically, that is what we're going to do. Of course, I know very soon we might be having access to rapid diagnostic tests, which will give you results within 15 minutes, but we're still going to use the PCR test. And like I said, the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the Ghana Football Association would engage officials of the testing centers, and we should be getting results within 48, 72 hours maximum. So once you come in with a negative COVID test, and we said also you would have to do a pre-competition medical assessment. We'll check your blood works. We do an ECG for your heart, because we also know that if somebody has had COVID-19 and treated, if you don't check his heart well, these people might hide certain things that could make them more prone to suffering some cardiac events, like a cardiac arrest. So we will check all these things. In camp, we're going to advise that these people not be paired in rooms, so they'll have to sleep in single rooms.
That's it for sports. I'm Gary Al Smith. Coming up, more on NDC and the running mate issues. Gifty will be here with that.
I will bring you live coverage of the official unveiling of the NDC's vice presidential candidate. Well, the Deputy General Secretary of the party, Barbara Sewa, has hailed the party's running mate, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, as the key to Ghana's missing link in politics. Ahead of her unveiling this evening, Barbara Sewa has been speaking to JoyNews about Professor Opoku-Agyeman's counterpart in the NPP, Dr. Baumia, and says he's lost his relevance.
When she becomes the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, she becomes automatically one of the leading members of the country in terms of policy and decision making. And from the way I see her, I think that she has something to offer, especially Ghanaian women. And she also serves as a huge motivation for us as women. And she's for within this very short period that she was nominated, she's had a very, I don't know, but her engagement with the women front in the party has been very, very encouraging. And I hope that if she continues that way, by the time she finishes her term as the vice president, whether she continues or not, she would have left a huge mark so far as women empowerment in Ghana as a whole, and in particular the NDC party is concerned.
I paid attention to your choice of words. You didn't say if, you said when. Yes. You're so hopeful, very optimistic that she will become the first female vice president of Ghana.
Happy that you got it.
Yes, but this is someone who is not a die-hard politician. She's not been at the grassroots. This is fresh ground for her. Is she someone who can go down there and be able to, you know, mix up with the people down there and help them to rise the way she's professed?
Oh, if you look at her background as an educationist, as someone who has risen through the ranks in education to the highest level of vice chancellor. I had heard her name several times, but when I saw her, I was really surprised that she was the person called Professor Nana.
Well, stay tuned here on Joy News on TV. We'll also be on Joy 99.7 FM, Love FM in Kumasi, myjoyonline.com, and our many other platforms for a build-up to this event today from 6 p.m. We'll be live on your digital TV because, as you know, we're free to air, but we'll also be on DSTV, channel 41, Good TV, channel 144.
News special, unpacking the Jane and John puzzle ahead of the official event to outdoor the NDC ticket. The ticket, solving the Jane and John puzzle, live from 6:30 p.m. on TV, radio, and online.
So hashtag is the election headquarters, hashtag the ticket. The Electoral Commission has implored party agents to use established rules to review the eligibility of an applicant rather than resort to violence. Addressing the media in Accra, Chairperson Jean Mensah condemned violent acts being witnessed across registration centres and called on police to prosecute offenders.
I worry about the citizens taking the law into their hands and not following laid down process. I think I mentioned it in my presentation that the Commission has put in place processes, mechanisms through which citizens can voice their complaints and their concerns. And we expect citizens to do so. And therefore, we do not encourage citizens taking the law into their hands. I think time and time again we have condemned violence on this platform, and we have urged our citizens to follow the laid down mechanisms because they do work. The challenge process, where if you have to challenge an applicant because you believe that applicant is not eligible, those processes do work because you go, there's a challenge form that you fill, and you have the registration review committee that will sit on these forms and determine whether or not the person is eligible. That committee has on it the district police commander, the head of the education service at the district. It also has political party representatives on the committee. So those mechanisms work. Apart from that, when it comes to exhibition as well, one can still have the opportunity to challenge. So the mechanisms work, and as a commission, our number one goal is to encourage citizens to use those mechanisms that we have made available at the districts and not to take the law into their hands.
The chairperson also disclosed that about 12 million people have so far been captured in the ongoing voter registration exercise.
At Friday, the 24th of July, that is the end of the fourth phase, the total number of registered voters stood at 11,629,480 persons. At the end of the fourth phase, the Greater Accra region had the highest number of registrants, totaling 2,615,925 persons. The Ashanti region came second, with a total of 2,089,923 persons.
Jean Mensah is the Electoral Commission's chairperson. Independent presidential candidate Mark Kofi Gan says he has a zero tolerance for corruption, and that will reflect in his government if voted as president. Speaking in an interview with my colleague Ernest Menu, Mr. Gan said the office of the special prosecutor was needless. For him, the appointment of Martin Amidu was a trap to limit him in his vigilante activities.
Then, so we're trying to deal with corruption on that level, enforcement of the law, even at the presidency. I have a totally zero tolerance for corruption. It's how I've lived my life as a professional, as an individual for the entirety of my life. And it's going to continue in my presidency. The second area we're trying to deal with corruption is to do a few more systemic things. For example, one of the things we want to do is to ensure that we try and separate the fiduciary duties of the Bank of Ghana from its prudential duties. That's a major thing. I know it will bring some controversy, but these things are crucial. And so these things need to change. If we want to have a corruption-free society, it has to start from the public sector.
The Office of the Special Prosecutor was set up. Martin Amidi was put there. He has investigated some issues. Some people are in court. Are you impressed?
Before he was appointed, I said this was a trap. And yes, it was a trap. He was doing a lot more as a vigilante than he is as a special prosecutor. And frankly, what we've done is to move away from solving the institutional inefficiencies within the various arms of supervisory and legal institutions we have, and trying to make that happen with one person. That's not the way you run systems. You have the judiciary, we've got the IOCO, we've got the Office of the Auditor.
Mariko Vigan wants to be president. He's standing as an independent candidate, speaking to my colleague Enes Kojo Meno. Well, today we have some, tweaks to our programming here. This is where we end the show, but there's more news at myjoyonline.com. We're bringing you JoyNews Prime, but we'll also be live at the UPSA at the official launch of the NDC's vice presidential candidate, or the running mate, Jane Nano Pokwajima, Professor. My name is Gifty Andop. It's always a pleasure coming your way. Many thanks for your time.